FDA approves a twice-yearly shot to prevent HIV. Date, June 18, 2025. Event summary. On June 18, 2025, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) made a groundbreaking announcement. It approved lenacapavir, marketed as Yeztugo, as the first long-acting injectable pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP for the prevention of HIV. This innovative treatment requires administration only twice a year, representing a significant advancement in HIV prevention strategies, particularly for high-risk populations including cisgender women, men who have sex with men, and gender-diverse individuals. Clinical trials and efficacy. The FDA's approval was heavily influenced by the results of two Phase 3 clinical trials known as Purpose 1 and Purpose 2. In these studies, Yeztugo showcased an astonishing efficacy rate of over 99.9% in preventing HIV infections among participants. Specifically, in the Purpose 1 trial, none of the 2,134 participants who received Yeztugo contracted HIV, while the Purpose 2 trial reported only 2 infections among 179 participants. These results underscore Yeztugo's effectiveness, particularly in comparison to daily oral PrEP options like Truvada. Yeztugo works by inhibiting multiple stages of the HIV life cycle, allowing it to remain effective in the body for extended periods, which is crucial for improving adherence, a common challenge faced by daily oral medication users. Experts in the field, including Dr. David Ho and Carlos Del Rio, highlighted the transformative potential of Yeztugo, especially in overcoming barriers related to adherence and stigma that have historically limited the uptake of existing PrEP options. Concerns about access and infrastructure. Despite the promising efficacy and convenience of Yeztugo, concerns regarding access and healthcare infrastructure persist. Advocacy groups have raised alarms about recent cuts to U.S. funding for HIV treatment and prevention programs, which could impede the drug's global impact. Kevin Frost from AMFAR emphasized the need to address these systemic issues in order to fully leverage the potential of Yeztugo, as the current global context presents significant challenges. In addition to its approval in the U.S., Gilead Sciences, the company behind Yeztugo, is pursuing regulatory applications in several other countries, including those in Europe and Australia. Plans are also underway to develop a self-administered version of Yeztugo to improve access, particularly in low and middle-income countries where healthcare access is limited. Historical context and future directions. Yeztugo's approval marks a historic milestone in the fight against HIV, serving as a promising new tool that could significantly reduce new infections, especially if accompanied by initiatives aimed at improving access and adherence to HIV prevention strategies. Nonetheless, the realization of its full potential depends on addressing broader systemic challenges that affect the delivery of HIV prevention and treatment services on a global scale. The introduction of Yeztugo brings forth new possibilities for HIV prevention, especially as it provides an alternative to the daily oral medications that have been the standard for PrEP. The innovative long-acting nature of lenacapavir indicates a shift towards more practical solutions in the ongoing battle against HIV, addressing critical issues of adherence and accessibility. Conclusion. The FDA's approval of Yeztugo represents a significant advancement in HIV prevention, providing a new option that could transform the landscape of HIV prevention efforts. As stakeholders in public health work to ensure that this innovative treatment is accessible to those who need it most, it is clear that the fight against HIV is entering a new chapter with the introduction of this long-acting injectable PrEP. The potential impact of Yeztugo, coupled with ongoing efforts to address systemic barriers, could pave the way for a future with significantly reduced HIV transmission rates. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir, branded as Yeztugo, as a twice-yearly injectable pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP for HIV prevention, is a groundbreaking development in public health. This approval is particularly significant because it challenges several preconceived notions about HIV prevention treatment adherence and the feasibility of long-acting treatments. Here are some counterintuitive aspects of this development. 1. Efficacy versus adherence. traditional HIV prevention methods have heavily relied on daily oral medications, which have been shown to be effective but often suffer from adherence issues. Yeztugo's approval demonstrates that a long-acting injectable can achieve over 99.9% efficacy while drastically reducing the need for daily medication. This challenges the prevailing belief that only frequent dosing can ensure effective prevention, illustrating that longer intervals can be just as effective, if not more so, in promoting adherence. 2. Impact on vaccine research. The high efficacy of lenacapavir raises questions about the future of HIV vaccine development. Historically, the lack of an effective vaccine has driven significant research efforts. With the emergence of such a potent preventive drug, there is a counterintuitive risk that funding and interest in vaccine research may decline. Researchers may find it ethically challenging to justify placebo-controlled trials for vaccines when a highly effective drug is available, potentially stalling advancements in vaccine science. 3. Access and infrastructure. While Yeztugo represents a major scientific advancement, its potential impact is tempered by systemic issues in healthcare infrastructure. Advocacy groups have expressed concerns that recent reductions in funding for HIV treatment and prevention programs could undermine the drug's availability and effectiveness in high-risk populations. This counterintuitive situation underscores the paradox where the introduction of a revolutionary drug could be rendered less impactful due to pre-existing systemic weaknesses. 4. Stigma and behavioral barriers. The approval of a long-acting injectable like Yeztugo could help reduce stigma associated with daily oral PrEP. However, it remains to be seen whether this will be realized in practice. The assumption that a less frequent dosing schedule will automatically lead to increased uptake overlooks the complex, multifaceted barriers related to stigma awareness and access that still exist in many communities. 5. Global health disparities. Yeztugo is primarily being developed with a focus on high-income countries, which may inadvertently widen health disparities. The assumption that a revolutionary treatment will automatically reach those in need ignores the reality of healthcare access, particularly in low and middle-income countries. While Gilead has made efforts to negotiate licensing deals for generic production, the challenges of distribution and healthcare infrastructure could impede access for those who would benefit most. 6. Cost considerations. There is an expectation that Yeztugo will be priced in line with existing PrEP options. However, this poses a counterintuitive challenge. If the drug is priced similarly to other PrEP options, it may be unaffordable for many in low-income regions, despite its effectiveness. This highlights the paradox of technological advancement in medicine without corresponding attention to economic accessibility. 7. Risk of resistance. The drug's ability to remain in the body for extended periods may lead to a misconception that it is entirely safe as a standalone preventative measure. However, the risk of developing drug-resistant HIV strains in individuals who may have undiagnosed infections prior to administration presents a significant challenge. This highlights the counterintuitive reality that while the drug is revolutionary, it still requires rigorous monitoring and testing protocols, which complicates its implementation. 8. Changing dynamics of public health messaging. The emergence of a highly effective prevention method like Yeztugo could shift public health messaging strategies. Previously, the narrative around HIV prevention focused on daily adherence and lifestyle changes. With a long-acting injectable option now available, the messaging may need to evolve to emphasize the availability of new technologies, potentially changing how prevention is communicated to at-risk populations. In summary, while the approval of Yeztugo marks a significant advancement in HIV prevention, it simultaneously exposes various counterintuitive challenges and considerations. Addressing these factors will be crucial for maximizing the drug's potential impact on global health and HIV prevention efforts. The juxtaposition of groundbreaking scientific advancement against the backdrop of systemic healthcare issues illustrates the complex landscape of public health interventions. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir, branded as Yeztugo, on June 18, 2025 marks a significant advancement in the fight against HIV. This is the first long-acting injectable pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP that requires administration just twice a year, potentially transforming HIV prevention strategies, especially for high-risk populations. Overlooked aspects of the approval and their significance. 1. Efficacy data and diverse populations. The clinical trials Purpose 1 and Purpose 2 demonstrated over 99.9% efficacy in preventing HIV infections among participants. Specifically, the trials reported 0 infections among 2,134 participants in Purpose 1 and only 2 infections among 2,179 participants in Purpose 2. While these figures are impressive, the significance lies in the demographic diversity of the study populations. Yeztugo showed superior efficacy among cisgender women and gender-diverse individuals, populations that have historically faced barriers to effective HIV prevention. This specificity in efficacy highlights that Yeztugo could address disparities in HIV rates among different demographics, which is often overlooked in discussions focused solely on the drug's overall efficacy. 2. Long-acting formulation and adherence challenges. Yeztugo's long-acting formulation is a major innovation in HIV prevention. Unlike daily oral PrEP options that require consistent adherence, the twice-yearly injection significantly reduces the burden of daily medication. This is particularly significant for populations that struggle with adherence due to stigma, forgetfulness, or other socioeconomic factors. The conversation around HIV prevention often emphasizes medication adherence as a barrier, but the introduction of Yeztugo shifts the narrative towards a more feasible and accessible solution. This aspect has the potential to engage individuals who may have previously disengaged from prevention efforts due to the demands of daily medication. 3. Access and infrastructure concerns. Despite the promising efficacy of Yeztugo, the report sheds light on critical external factors that may limit its impact. Advocacy groups have expressed concerns about access, particularly in the context of recent funding cuts to U.S. global health programs like PEPFAR and USAID. This is a crucial point that is often overshadowed by the excitement surrounding new drug approvals. The systemic issues of funding and infrastructure could hinder the distribution and availability of Yeztugo, particularly in low and middle-income countries where the need for effective HIV prevention is greatest. Without addressing these structural barriers, the potential benefits of Yeztugo could remain unrealized. 4. Impact on vaccine research. Yeztugo's approval may have implications for ongoing HIV vaccine research. Since no effective vaccine has been developed in over 40 years, lenacapavir's efficacy in preventing infections could shift the focus and resources away from vaccine development. This could result in ethical dilemmas for clinical trials where participants may be denied access to an effective preventive measure to assess a vaccine's efficacy. The conversation around HIV prevention is often framed in terms of new treatments or vaccines. However, the introduction of a highly effective drug like Yeztugo could reshape research priorities and funding allocations, potentially stalling vaccine progress. 5. Cost and insurance coverage. The report mentions that while Gilead plans to ensure broad insurance coverage for Yeztugo, the cost remains uncertain. This aspect is vital as the financial burden of medications often disproportionately affects lower-income populations who stand to benefit most from PrEP. The potential pricing strategy aligned with existing PrEP options needs to be scrutinized to ensure that cost does not become a barrier to access. The conversation about cost is frequently sidelined in favor of discussions about efficacy and safety, but it is a critical determinant of a drug's success in real-world settings. 6. Self-administration potential. Plans to explore a self-administered version of Yeztugo could further enhance accessibility, particularly in resource-limited settings. This initiative is significant because it aligns with the trend of empowering individuals in their healthcare decisions. While the initial approval requires healthcare provider administration, the potential for self-administration could drastically improve uptake, especially among young adults and marginalized communities. This aspect of patient empowerment in healthcare is a critical but often overlooked factor in public health discussions. Conclusion: the approval of Yeztugo is indeed a landmark achievement, but the broader implications of its introduction cannot be ignored. Key factors such as demographic efficacy, adherence challenges, systemic access issues, the impact on vaccine research, cost considerations, and self-administration potential are critical elements that will shape the future of HIV prevention. Addressing these factors will be essential for maximizing the benefits of this groundbreaking treatment and ensuring it reaches those who need it most. 1. Revolutionary efficacy and convenience. The FDA's approval of lenacapavir Yeztugo as the first long-acting injectable pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP for HIV prevention marks a significant advancement in the battle against the HIV epidemic. With a dosing schedule of just twice a year, Yeztugo demonstrated an extraordinary efficacy rate of over 99.9% in preventing HIV infections across diverse populations in 2 Phase 3 clinical trials, Purpose 1 and Purpose 2. This starkly contrasts with daily oral PrEP methods such as Truvada, which often suffer from issues related to adherence and stigma. The long-acting nature of Yeztugo could address these challenges effectively, making it a game-changer for high-risk populations including cisgender women, men who have sex with men, and gender-diverse individuals. 2. Barriers to access and systemic challenges. Despite the promising efficacy and convenience of Yeztugo, there are significant concerns regarding access and infrastructure that could hinder its global impact. Advocacy groups have pointed out that recent cuts to U.S. funding for HIV treatment and prevention programs may impede the drug's distribution and accessibility, particularly in low and middle-income countries. The challenges of healthcare access, stigma, and adherence to treatment protocols remain critical barriers that must be addressed to leverage the full potential of Yeztugo. As noted by experts, while the drug represents a monumental scientific breakthrough, the current global context presents substantial challenges in delivering effective HIV prevention and treatment services. 3. Impact on vaccine development and future directions. Lenacapavir's approval as a highly effective preventive measure raises questions about its implications for ongoing HIV vaccine research. Given its impressive efficacy, the presence of a successful long-acting PrEP option complicates the ethical landscape of vaccine trials, potentially making it difficult to justify placebo-controlled studies. This scenario risks diverting attention and resources away from vaccine development, which has struggled to yield successful candidates for over 4 decades. Experts in the field have expressed concerns that this could stall or alter the trajectory of HIV vaccine research, emphasizing the need for a balanced approach that continues to pursue both prevention methods simultaneously. 4. Global regulatory and access initiatives. Following its approval in the U.S., Gilead Sciences is actively pursuing regulatory approvals for Yeztugo in multiple countries, including those in Europe and Australia, with plans for a self-administered version to enhance accessibility in underserved regions. Gilead's strategy includes partnerships with global health organizations and advocacy groups to ensure that the drug reaches the populations that need it most. The company is also working on negotiating royalty-free licensing agreements with generic manufacturers to produce lenacapavir for low and middle-income countries. Such initiatives are crucial to bridging the gap in healthcare access and ensuring that the benefits of Yeztugo are realized on a global scale, particularly in regions disproportionately affected by the HIV epidemic. 1. The development and approval of Truvada for PrEP. 2012, Truvada, a combination of emtricitabine and tenofovir disoproxil fumarate, was the first drug approved by the FDA for pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP to prevent HIV infection in high-risk populations. Its approval marked a significant advancement in the fight against HIV, as it provided a daily oral option for individuals at risk of contracting the virus. The introduction of Truvada brought attention to the need for innovative preventative measures, leading to increased awareness and uptake among high-risk groups, albeit still facing challenges related to adherence and stigma. 2. The introduction of the HPV vaccine Gardasil 2006, the approval of Gardasil, the first vaccine to protect against human papillomavirus HPV, represented a major breakthrough in preventing certain types of cancers associated with the virus, including cervical cancer. Similar to the introduction of long-acting injectable PrEP options, Gardasil aimed to provide a proactive solution to a significant public health issue. The vaccine's rollout faced challenges including public misconceptions, access issues, and the need for educational initiatives to increase uptake among eligible populations. 3. The approval of long-acting injectable antipsychotics Risperdal Consta 2003. Risperdal Consta was one of the first long-acting injectable formulations approved for the treatment of schizophrenia. This innovation aimed to improve medication adherence among individuals with mental health disorders who often struggle with daily medication regimens. The long-acting nature of the injection reduced the frequency of dosing and helped to mitigate the challenges posed by non-adherence. Similar to the expected benefits of Yeztugo in the context of HIV prevention, the approval of long-acting formulations in mental health care opened doors for further advancements in treatment adherence strategies across various therapeutic areas. The FDA's approval of Lenacapavir, branded as Yeztugo, as a long-acting injectable pre-exposure prophylaxis PrEP for HIV prevention, marks a significant milestone in the fight against the HIV epidemic. With the ability to provide protection with just 2 injections per year, Yeztugo is poised to transform HIV prevention, especially for high-risk populations. However, its future success will hinge on overcoming systemic challenges related to access, cost, and healthcare infrastructure. Future outlook and predictions. 1. Increased uptake of PrEP. The approval of Yeztugo is expected to lead to a significant increase in PrEP uptake, particularly among populations that have historically faced barriers to access. The convenience of biannual injections could appeal to individuals who struggle with daily adherence to oral PrEP options. Healthcare providers may observe a shift in prescribing patterns as awareness of Yeztugo grows. 2. Enhanced global access. Gilead Sciences is already working on regulatory approvals for Yeztugo in various countries, including those in Europe, Australia, and Sub-Saharan Africa. If successful, this could facilitate wider availability of the drug in regions with high HIV prevalence. Moreover, efforts to create a self-administered version may further increase access, especially in low and middle-income countries where healthcare resources are limited. 3. Addressing stigma and disparities. Yeztugo's long-acting nature could help reduce the stigma associated with HIV prevention. As adherence concerns diminish, public health campaigns can focus on education and awareness targeting populations that have been underserved in the past, such as cisgender women and gender-diverse individuals. This could lead to a more equitable distribution of PrEP services across various demographics. 4. Potential impact on HIV vaccine research. The effectiveness of Yeztugo raises questions about the future of HIV vaccine research. With a highly effective drug now available, the ethical considerations surrounding placebo-controlled vaccine trials may complicate research efforts. Scientists may need to rethink strategies to develop an HIV vaccine, focusing on alternative approaches that complement existing prevention methods. 5. Challenges in infrastructure and funding. Advocacy groups have raised concerns regarding the infrastructure needed to deliver Yeztugo effectively. Recent cuts to funding for HIV treatment and prevention programs could impede efforts to maximize the drug's potential impact. It will be crucial for policymakers and health organizations to prioritize and invest in HIV prevention strategies to ensure that the benefits of Yeztugo reach those who need it most. 6. Long-term monitoring and resistance management. As with any new medication, ongoing monitoring will be essential to assess the long-term safety and efficacy of Yeztugo. Specifically, healthcare providers will need to manage the risk of drug resistance, particularly among individuals who may acquire HIV during the period between injections. This will require robust testing protocols and patient education to ensure adherence to HIV-negative status before each dose. 7. Economic considerations. the pricing of Yeztugo will play a critical role in its accessibility. Gilead has indicated that it will likely align the cost with existing PrEP options. However, if the price remains high, it could limit access in low-resource settings. The company's efforts to negotiate licensing agreements with generic manufacturers for low- and middle-income countries will be vital in facilitating affordable access. 8. Integration into comprehensive prevention strategies. Yeztugo should be integrated into broader HIV prevention strategies that include regular testing, counseling, and education about safe sex practices. By combining pharmacological interventions with behavioral and social strategies, public health initiatives can create a more holistic approach to reducing HIV transmission. In conclusion, the approval of Yeztugo represents a significant step forward in HIV prevention, with the potential to reshape the landscape of how we approach HIV risk. However, realizing its full potential will require concerted efforts to address systemic barriers, enhance accessibility, and ensure that healthcare infrastructures can support the effective rollout and monitoring of this innovative therapy. Collaboration among governments, health organizations, and communities will be essential to harness the promise of Yeztugo in the fight against HIV.